The night sky was heavy with rain, the kind that blurred the headlights of cars and made the roads glisten like broken glass. James drove fast, every mile pulling him closer to the small house where Diep and little Nhi were waiting. His chest was tight with exhaustion for 100 kilometers of work and worry behind him. But stronger than the fatigue was a fierce pull inside him. He had been away too long. He needed to see them. When James stepped through the doorway, the warmth of the home wrapped around him. The smell of rice and soup drifted from the kitchen. Nhi's crayons lay scattered across the table. Her small hands, still busy coloring. Diep looked up from the stove, her face lit by the soft yellow glow of the lamp, and James felt that familiar ache of love and longing. "Nhi," he whispered, crouching down, his arms wide. The little girl turned, her eyes shining, and ran into him. He kissed her cheeks again and again, laughing through the tiredness. For a moment, nothing else mattered: the long nights, the endless contracts, the weight of responsibility. Here, in this room, with Diep and Nhi, was the only place he wanted to be. Dinner was simple, but to James it tasted better than any meal in the city. They prayed together, ate together, laughed when Nhi proudly showed her to good student awards from school. Diep's smile was gentle, but James could see something behind her eyes, a shadow she was trying to hide. When the meal ended, Diep finally spoke. Her voice was low, trembling. "James, there was a woman who came yesterday. She said she is Nhi's grandmother. She wants to take her away." The words fell like stones into James's heart. For a moment he sat frozen, his mind racing. He looked at Nhi, so small, so fragile, playing with the grapes he had brought. Could someone truly take her away? Could this woman be real, or was it a trick, another danger creeping closer to his family? James took Diep's hand across the table. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. "Listen to me. No one will hurt Nhi, not while I am here. Tomorrow, I will find out the truth. If she really is family, we will know. But if she is lying, if there is another plan behind this, I will stop it." Outside, the storm deepened, thunder rolling across the sky. Inside, James held Diep's hand tightly, his other hand resting on Nhi's shoulder. A secret was unfolding in the shadows, one that could tear them apart. But James knew only one thing with certainty: he would fight against the darkness, whatever it cost, to protect the two souls he loved most. Morning came, soft and gray after the storm. The little house smelled of rain-soaked earth and wet leaves. Diep moved quietly round the kitchen, preparing breakfast, her heart heavy with unspoken fears. Nhi was humming a tune as she colored at the table. Innocent of the storm that threatened her life, James stood by the window, his coffee untouched, his mind sharp and restless. The words from last night echoed in his head. "I am Nhi's grandmother. She must return to her family, to sudden, to perfect in its timing. Why now? Why appear only after Nhi had found warmth and safety with Diep?" Something was wrong, and James could feel it. He left soon after breakfast, promising Nhi a small surprise later. His car cut through the damp streets, his eyes scanning every corner as if danger might be watching. He had lived long enough in the world of business and power to recognize manipulation when it lurked nearby. This was no coincidence. At the district office, James asked for help verifying the woman's claim. The clerk handed him a thin file, official seals pressed and read. According to the papers, the woman's name was Lan. Records said she had a son who died years ago, leaving behind a daughter. Nhi. The documents looked clean, but James's instincts told him otherwise. He closed the file, jaw clenched. If this was true, why had Lan stayed silent for so long? Why had she left Nhi to fend for herself, only to return now? He needed answers, not papers. When James returned home, Diep was waiting on the porch, her eyes searching his face. "What did you find?" she asked softly. "To perfect," James replied. "The records match her story, but I don't trust it. Someone may have planted this." Diep's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of her dress. "James, what if it's real? What if Nhi truly belongs to her?" James stepped closer, lowering his voice so Nhi would not hear. "Then we face it. But if it's a lie, if someone is using this to get close to us, then they are after more than Nhi. They are after us." That night, when silence wrapped around the house, James stayed awake, listening to every creak and rustle. His phone buzzed once, a hidden number. No voice on the other end, only static and a faint whisper he could not make out. A chill moved through him. This was no accident. Darkness was closing in, and with it, a secret that threatened Diep and Nhi. James clenched his fists. He had fought rivals in business, endured betrayal, carried the weight of family history, but this was different. This was his home, his family, and if the shadows thought they could take that away from him, they would soon learn what it meant to fight a man who had nothing to lose when it came to protecting the ones he loved. The next afternoon, the rain had cleared, leaving the streets washed clean. Shining under the pale sun, James drove Diep and Nhi into town. On the surface it looked like an ordinary outing: shopping, laughter, Nhi tugging at Diep's hand as they passed bright displays, but beneath James's calm expression, tension coiled tight. He knew today he would face the woman who claimed to be Nhi's grandmother. They met in a small cafe at the edge of the market. The woman was already there, sitting by the window. Her back was straight, her gray hair tied neatly, her hands folded around a cup of tea that had long gone cold. Her eyes lifted as they approached, sharp, assessing, far too steady for a grandmother simply yearning for her lost grandchild. "Mr. James," she said politely, though her voice carried a weight that unsettled him. "And this must be Diep." "And a little Nhi." Nhi clung to Diep's arm, uncertain. James pulled out a chair, his movements slow, controlled. "You are Lan," he said. "You claim to be Nhi's grandmother. Show. U.S. proof." Lan slid a folder across the table. Inside were birth records, hospital files, even a photograph of a young man holding a newborn child. It all seemed to line up. Yet something about her gaze made James's skin prickle. To prepared, to rehearsed. Diep glanced at the papers, her voice unsteady. "If you are truly family, why now? Why wait until Nhi has lived without you for so long?" Lan's lips curved into a thin smile. "Circumstances, work. Life does not always allow us to be where we wish to be." She reached across the table, extending her hand toward Nhi. "But blood calls to blood. A child must return to her roots." Nhi pressed closer to Diep, shaking her head. James's jaw tightened. "Roots are not just blood," he said quietly. "They are love, care, sacrifice. Where were you when she needed those things?" Lan's eyes flashed just for a second before she lowered them. "I am here now," she whispered. James studied her in silence. He felt the weight of something hidden behind her calm mask. This was no simple family reunion. There was another force at work, something darker. As they left the cafe, Diep's hands were trembling. "James, I don't trust her." "Neither do I," he admitted. His eyes scanned the street, catching sight of a man leaning against a wall, watching them. When James turned his head, the man vanished into the crowd. The unease grew heavier inside him. This was not about a grandmother reclaiming her grandchild. It was a game of shadows, and Nhi was the piece being moved across the board. That night, James locked the doors, his phone on the table beside him. He knew Lan's story was a veil, and behind it lay the truth he had yet to uncover. And when that truth came to light, he feared it would threaten not only Nhi's future but Diep's life as well. The following days passed in a blur of unease. James tried to keep life normal for Diep and Nhi, sharing meals, helping Nhi with her schoolwork, laughing when she proudly sang the song she learned in class. But beneath the small moments of joy, he felt the weight of eyes on them. Every time he left the house, a shadow seemed to follow. Every phone call carried an echo of silence before the line cut dead. On the third evening, James decided to act. He drove alone to the edge of the city, to a warehouse where whispers of old business rivalries often surfaced. There he met a contact he trusted from years back. The man's face was hidden under the glow of a single hanging light. "You asked about Lan," the contact said, sliding an envelope across the table. "She isn't just a grandmother. She has ties to someone you know well." James's heart pounded as he opened the file. Photos, reports, financial transfers, threads woven together into a single name. John. The name hit James like a knife. John, the man who once stood beside him in the corporate world, then turned against him, draining investments, sabotaging deals, nearly destroying everything James built. John, whose hatred had deep roots, tied to a land dispute from generations past, a wound between their families that had never healed. And now Lan, not just a grieving grandmother, but John's ally. James's vision darkened with rage as the truth snapped into focus. Nhi was not simply being claimed by family. She was being used as leverage, a pawn in John's war for revenge. He returned home past midnight, the streets silent under a heavy sky. Diep was waiting on the porch, a shawl wrapped around her shoulders, worry etched across her face. "Where were you?" she asked. James took her hands, his voice low and fierce. "I know the truth now. Lan is not here for Nhi's sake. She is working with John. They want to hurt us through her." Diep's breath caught. She glanced toward the house where Nhi was sleeping peacefully, unaware of the storm gathering. Around her, "James, what do we do?" He drew her into his arms, his jaw set like iron. "We protect her, no matter what. Tomorrow I will move you both to a safer place. I will confront John myself." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of what was coming pressing against them. The night was calm, but James knew it was only the stillness before the storm. And in that silence, a vow burned inside him. Whatever John's secret plans were, whatever darkness he unleashed, James would not allow it to touch Diep or Nhi, not while he still had breath in his body. Morning broke with a false sense of peace. The sun rose softly over the hills, casting golden light across the village, but James could not shake the heaviness in his chest. He had not slept. His mind kept circling around John's name, around Lan's steady, deceptive eyes, around the way. Shadows followed them whenever they stepped outside. He had already decided. Today he would move Diep and Nhi. Their safety mattered more than anything. He packed a small suitcase before dawn, careful not to wake them, and made arrangements with a trusted friend outside the city. By mid-morning, Diep was helping Nhi dress for school. The girl laughed, her voice bright as she tugged at her braids, asking James if he thought she looked grown up. James forced a smile, his heart aching with the innocence she carried, the innocence that was now in danger. As they stepped outside, the street seemed to quiet. A dog barked in the distance, then silence. James's senses sharpened instantly. He guided Diep and Nhi toward the car. "Quickly," he urged, his voice low. But before they could reach the gate, a van screeched to a halt at the corner. Two men in black masks jumped out, moving fast. One lunged toward Diep, the other toward Nhi. "Run," James roared. He shoved Diep and Nhi behind him and struck out hard, his fist slamming into the first man's jaw. The attacker staggered but didn't fall. The second man grabbed at Nhi's arm, yanking her toward the van. Nhi screamed. Diep clung to her, refusing to let go, tears streaming down her face as she fought with every ounce of strength. James's blood surged with fury. He launched himself forward, tackling the masked man to the ground. They rolled in the dirt, fists flying, the sharp taste of iron filling James's mouth as a blow split his lip. But he didn't care. He would not let them take Nhi. The first man recovered and charged at James from behind, but Diep, trembling, grabbed a heavy wooden stick from the garden and swung with desperate force. The crack echoed as it connected, dropping the man to his knees. James pinned the second attacker down, his knee crushing the man's chest. "Who sent you?" he growled, his voice deadly. The man spat blood and gave a twisted smile. "You already know, John." James's grip tightened, but before he could demand more, the distant wail of a siren pierced the air. Someone had called the police. The masked men panicked. One shoved James off and scrambled into the van, dragging his partner with him. Tires screeched, smoke curled, and within seconds they were gone. The yard was left in chaos. Diep sobbing as she held Nhi close, the child trembling, whispering James's name over and over. James pulled them into his arms, his chest heaving with rage and fear. This was no longer a hidden game of shadows. John had made his move, and James knew then there would be no more waiting, no more cautious steps. If John wanted war, he would face him directly, for Diep, for Nhi, for the family he swore to protect with his life. The story of James, Diep, and Nhi reminds us that love and loyalty are not just words, but choices made in the face of fear. James teaches us that true strength lies in protection not of wealth, power, or pride, but of the people we love most. Even when shadows from the past rise to threaten happiness, the courage to stand firm, to fight for family, and to protect innocence becomes the greatest shield. Diep's bravery shows that even in fear, love gives ordinary people the strength to resist darkness. The lesson is clear. Family is not only about blood, but about the sacrifices, trust, and love we choose to give each other. And when danger comes, unity and faith can overcome even the deepest hatred.